Hello, everyone, and welcome to Badminton Lights Out, a feature of the Badminton podcast,
where we take you behind the scenes of high performance badminton.
I'm Gronya.
I'm Justine, and let's dive into it. We mentioned in the episode of things we wish we knew when we were young that this sport is very expensive. So today, our main topic is
earning money while trying to achieve your athletic dreams. So we're going to deep dive into exactly what that entails and different ways that you can figure out how to earn money and support all the tournament costs and everything that goes into badminton.
Yes, because it is very expensive. So our first point today is that there are different avenues of income out there, and everyone is in different situations. So we're going to dive into that. For example, in New Zealand, players can't be called professional badminton players because we don't actually get any sort of income from it. So unfortunately, badminton is not as big as rugby here in New Zealand. So all badminton athletes here are self-funded, and we have to find different ways to come up with income of pretty much how to fund tournaments, how to fund our life. And yeah, but Garnia is in a different situation. So what's your situation like in Australia?
Yeah, so for us, I guess me and Sariana are probably the most professional. I'm very lucky that I've had a lot of sponsorship opportunities for most of my career, which is pretty much how I could continue competing. Otherwise, I would not have got to this level or have kind of had the opportunities that I had without that kind of money. And then, the majority of Australian players are similar to New Zealand. So I guess what are some of the ways that in New Zealand that players will earn money, like full-time job, coaching, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, coaching is one of them, and otherwise the majority, since we managed to, a majority of us have finished uni, we are into our own fields of getting a full-time job. Some are doing our part-time job, like me, I'm doing a part-time job. I did try and do a full-time job along with training, and honestly it's so tiring. It's like doing two jobs at once because we do so many hours of training. But yeah, the majority of the squad are doing full-time jobs. But oh, wait, I just lost my train of thought. Otherwise, if you're like a uni student, they're also being supported by their family. Or yeah, I don't know if I know anyone with sponsorships. But the easiest way to earn money, I guess, is to be a trust fund kid,
Yeah, that's definitely a good way to go. And I guess along with that, even, some of the athletes that have full-time jobs, they're still trying to stay at home and, save up as best they can to support their tournaments because it's still such an expensive sport to play and at a high level. Conversely, in some other nations, such as throughout Asia, like Malaysia, Indonesia, China, they have big, well-supported national teams. So their association is well-funded, which means that they usually pay a salary to the players, and this is usually dependent on their world ranking. So that's motivation for them to, get results, and they just get a weekly, or I don't know exactly how it's paid, but, a salary that is like a full-time job. And a lot of the time they also just live at the dormitories, which means they don't have expenses. Their food is paid for, that kind of thing. I think it's usually once they get married that they're allowed to live outside, or I don't know, some places maybe they have the choice of living outside or staying there. But that's totally different thing. And then all their tournaments are paid for, all the travel expenses. That it's really professional.
Well, I can't imagine, because here in New Zealand and Australia, we don't live together, right? We're once we finish training, we just go off into our own lives. And I can't imagine being with the squad 24/7. I'd be pretty annoyed at myself. I talk all the time. So
yourself.
At myself. If I had to live with myself, I'm just putting my shoes.
Shut up.
Yeah, pretty much putting myself into other shoes. I'll just be like, no, she has to stop talking.
No, but when I I'm at Hong Kong Institute or in Malaysia, it's really nice to see that they are just like family, that they can be competitors, because technically, all the women's doubles girls or whatever are competing against each other to, get sent to certain tournaments, that kind of thing. But because, some of them have moved away from their hometowns, they don't have family around, they really are just like family. And it's so sweet to see as well, because that's not the perception that I had before I visited these places. I thought, everyone is competitive and they want to beat each other. And
Yeah.
I even used to think that like because they had to train so much and they were getting paid to do it, that they didn't actually want to do it. I was like, they just have to do this job because it's the only way they earn income. I don't even know if they like always want to win, but like going there, they're just like us. That they want to achieve their athletic dreams and
Yeah.
and everything. But I just had this weird perception. I was like, I don't know if they like actually like doing what they do.
Nah, but it's true. Like, I say that I would be annoyed at being around people all the time, but when I actually experienced like staying with BEC, like the European of Excellence, it was really fun. Oh, actually, COE, Center of Excellence, yeah, and they were all singles
Yeah.
players, and it was so cool to just be a team. And the vibe in trainings was quite cool because everyone shared the same goal. They all just wanted to get better. And then, so it's like intense training. And then after training, it's like, whoa, everyone's just friends and chill. So it was fun, actually. So it'd be cool to have that in Australia and New Zealand, maybe once we have a lot of funding.
Once you guys win a gold medal.
Yeah,
It's only up
someone
from
wants a
there.
gold medal. We have to qualify for the Olympics. I mean, even if we qualify, we have to get through the committee, which is insane.
Yeah. You guys have
But
a
that's
tough
another
process
topic.
there.
Yeah.
That can be in our complaining podcast where we just shit talk about everything that's bad.
Now, just a quick word from our sponsors. As people who love badminton, we all know that it's not just about the sport itself. It's about the connections you make and the things that it teaches you as a person that you're able to bring to all of the other parts of your life. That's why we want to introduce you to the book Mirror of Magico, written by Al Liao, a former Taiwanese national badminton player who is as passionate about badminton as us. For those who love Harry Potter, you'll want to give this one a read, because Al has authored a fantasy story where 3 different characters with varying personalities go on a journey of adventure and learning. And they realize that things don't just happen to you, they happen because of you. And by being yourself and spending time in your dreams, you can conquer the evils and be the best version of yourself. So make sure you check it out. Mirror of Magico, written by Al Liao. You can find it in all leading bookstores, and we'll leave the link in the podcast description.
Alternatively, sponsorship is, as I mentioned, another source of income, even for the players that have salaries or, are from the big nations that are well supported. So this is pretty much usually in the form of a brand ambassadorship. So pretty much the sponsor uses your image, take photos with the product. Sometimes there's social media deals involved, which means, you have to post a certain amount of times a month. You have to attend a certain number of events. You need to, I don't know, what else is there? Yeah, just take photos or just promote the product pretty much. And obviously
it really depends on your deals, right? I mean, on your contract, right?
Yeah. And then in exchange for that, they usually give you money. Sometimes, it might just be free product if it's something expensive, or there could be other forms of transaction, but usually the best is money.
But for sponsorships, it doesn't start off with money, right? Like, it usually starts with just products first, and then once you build your personal branding, it starts becoming monetary. Would you say that's right?
Yeah, so it depends, I guess, your level, but if you're starting out from smaller, it's usually just products. So you might have just like a local badminton shop who give you free stringing, and you wear their logo on your shirt or something like that. And then, if you grow up the rankings and you get to, the top 10, then it's like big deals, like a lot of money involved, a lot of, photo shoots and things that you have to do for them as well. So it's definitely related to pretty much your marketability, like whether that be world ranking or kind of social media as well.
Yeah. So I think like we'll get into our next point, because I think you would be the best person to talk to in terms of like in Oceanias and stuff, like how you earn your income, because you don't do a normal job, right? So how do you earn your income for the tournaments?
Yeah. So majority of my income is through Li Ning, which is a huge badminton brand that most people would know about, probably second to Yonex. and they've supported me since I think about like 2012. And it obviously started out a lot less before I was up in the rankings. And they pretty much were trying to just help me maintain my tournament so that I was able to afford to play tournaments. And that's ultimately like what they were helping me reimburse so that I could, put all that money towards my badminton. And then as I've, got a bigger social media following and gone up the rankings, it's grown with that kind of, we've grown together, which has been really an awesome journey. And I'm so grateful to have them as well. But so outside of that, what I tried to do was kind of started with when my Chinese heritage thing got out that I was related to Kang Yue, a famous Chinese revolutionist. So from there, I started getting a few more followers on Instagram and stuff, just from the news articles and, other media outlets, I guess, not specifically me. And then I kind of just thought I should make the best of this opportunity. I should just keep posting stuff, updating people. And it's just grown and grown from then. And, at certain tournaments, it'll just jump, my followers will jump a bit, things like that. So through that, I've found other sponsorships. So I've had like a Slim Secrets protein bar kind of sponsorship for a bit. I've had property development, just kind of random connections and opportunities. And I think I mentioned that in one of our other podcasts about, just being open to all these opportunities and networking, and like, you never know who you could meet, especially in sponsorships. It can just be a random social player at the club who really wants to support you or really, likes your journey or your story, that kind of thing, who can help a lot with sponsorship opportunities or connecting you with someone.
Yeah. So in other words, we have to try and go viral, right? So that we network out there. So if we're ever at a tournament, we'll try like racket swap or something.
Yeah, pretty much. And there's a lot of different ways you can do it. So there's people that are, making YouTube tutorial videos now, like I think Mads Christoffersen from Denmark has been doing that pretty regularly. There's 2 English players as well who started Badminton Insight. So that's ways just to kind of create value that you can then show to sponsors, and you can be like, I can put your logo on my videos as a digital asset. You can pay me this much per month, or you can support me for these tournaments. But then, I would say as you're starting out, to just start small and kind of, if you're not a big name, to understand that there's not usually as much in it for the sponsor, and you kind of need to be really nice about it and kind of address it in a way that makes them want to help you out.
So in terms of like social media, right? So we're going to talk to people who want to start out the social media. What would be the best way to do it? Like, how often would you have to post, or like what kind of posts do you have to do to help gain sponsorships or start a personal brand?
So I would say to try and like center your social media around kind of 3 pillars. So obviously one of them would be badminton, and then it depends kind of what else you're interested in, because obviously you want it to be authentic to you and, stuff that you enjoy posting about. So for me, it's like health and fitness, and then just kind of a bit of my, normal day-to-day life, like my friends, family, that kind of thing as well. So I'd center stuff around those 3 things, and then just kind of try and do more as you feel comfortable. I think it's really hard if you're forcing it and you don't enjoy it and you're just doing it for the sake of it. So, I mean, I try to do at least like 5 posts a week, just usually about kind of my training that day, or, food, or what I did on the weekend, that kind of stuff. But maybe just starting out, you can just post around tournaments, just updating people on your results or how you're preparing for a tournament if you want to keep it more badminton focused. Posting things if you have a big occasion like a birthday or a graduation, exciting stuff like that as well is always nice. And just kind of doing what you might like to see from others as well, or just getting feedback from what you post.
Yeah. Did you ever feel like you were scared to post anything, or like post something online, or like where, for example, you were training and you were like, oh, should I post that? Like my technique looks off. Did you ever have to go through that mentally, or was it just you didn't really think about it and you were like, nah, YOLO?
I have a YOLO attitude to most stuff, but those thoughts do cross my mind because, to me, I'm like a top 20, 25 player. There's obviously people that are better than me. So you kind of have that in the back of your head. You're like, oh, I'm not the best in the world at this. Should I be the one that's, trying to teach others or show them like how to do it, that kind of thing, if I'm not like actually the best? But I think I just come back to, I think if this helps somebody or somebody finds some value from it, then it's worthwhile.
Yeah.
And try not to think of like, sorry, and try not to like just think of those few people who might be like, oh, that's a bit weird. Like majority of people probably appreciate the effort that you're putting in, so you shouldn't worry about it.
Exactly. Well, I guess also if they do spot something like something that's wrong or whatever, they could just mentally be like, oh, I can see what she's doing wrong there. This could probably how she can improve it. So in a way, you're also helping them identify things if they could find something wrong. I remember we were looking at this exercise and we're like, because we know a lot of like physio stuff, right? Because we know our physio and we're like, ooh, that's not physio approved, but
should we say what it was? No, okay. There was a player that was doing or just there was a player that was doing a gym exercise and her knee was going inwards, which is like knee valgus. And I sent it to Justine. I was like, oh, this knee's borderline like going in. And she's like, yeah, that's not physio approved. And I was like, yeah, but she's strong as, so I think she gets away with it.
Yeah.
So now I'll go into how to create your brand deck for sponsors. So this is it's a 10-page document that I have that I send out to sponsors or, brands I might want to work with, or if I have a manager, I'll send it to the manager that does this for me as well. But this is probably for kind of higher end athletes that might be on tour trying to find support, or, you want to start traveling a lot more and you need that support. Otherwise, I'll go into a little bit at the end if you are like a junior and, more local tournaments way to do it. But so pretty much mine's a 10-page document. The first page is just a nice photo of me, my name, Australian badminton player and ambassador, links to like the different social media platforms through like icons, my email address and my website. And then I just have a short bio pretty much about how I got into badminton, what my dreams are, like my goals, and a little bit about what I'm doing outside of badminton. So what I study, that kind of thing. I have a core values page, which has health, determined, respect, environmentally conscious, but that's not probably a necessity. Then I have a badminton page about the badminton statistics. So I think this is important if you're approaching a brand that's not familiar with badminton. So in Australia, most companies wouldn't understand how big badminton is globally if they weren't Asian, probably. So I have like that it's the fastest racket sport, that it's been in the Olympic Games since 1992, that 220 million people play it more than once a week, the affiliated countries, how much it's broadcast to, and how it's like, I think sixth most popular sport throughout the world by participation.
So it's like small facts about badminton really to give an idea of what we do pretty much, right?
Yeah. So pretty much like I kind of tried to sell myself a little bit, but then I also need to sell the sport because they also base it off the sport and, the participants and how many people they think that you will reach through your badminton career as well.
And probably they're probably going to look at the demographic as well, like of the sport, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's all about kind of aligning your audience with theirs. So that's why, you don't see athletes partnering with cigarette companies, or maybe they partner with beer companies. I don't know, but that kind of thing.
I was really surprised about the McDonald's one, actually. I was like, ooh, because Tattooing got a McDonald's sponsorship. And I was like, damn,
But just, do you know how much like the Taiwan team eat McDonald's? Just like, honestly, after so many tournaments, you just walk back from the courts and if there's a McDonald's nearby, there'll be so many players there. It's not the best, but I mean, she's like world champ and everything. So
yeah.
Is she world champ? I don't know. Maybe she's up there. She's world number one, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I think I might, so my fifth page, then I'll introduce like my badminton career. So I'll say a few of my accomplishments and, some tournaments that I've won. Don't go into like huge detail here because they don't understand, every tournament. So just like the big ones, make them sound as big as you can. Yeah. Don't exaggerate them in a true way, I guess. Like say you represented your country at the biggest team event, whatever. Then I have a social media presence with my statistics across a few platforms and like my main country following, that kind of thing. But I would say if you don't have that, then maybe talk about what you want to achieve in social media. Like I have a dream to start a YouTube channel. I want to make videos, or I want to do vlogs, that kind of thing, and kind of just sell them what you might do in the future as well.
Yeah.
And then I also have a thing about collaborations with the companies that I've worked with in the past and what I have done with them. So my third last page is like the things I've done. So brand ambassador, product endorsement, done TV hosting, modeling, appearances, events, and then the other sponsors that I've worked with, a few photos. Every page has photos or kind of icons. My second last page is my timeline. So kind of what I want to achieve in the next 2 years, including like the things I want to, like if I want to win a super series title, that I want to reach the top 10, like that I wanted to go to the Olympics, that kind of thing. So they can see the path that you're on and kind of know what they would be investing in and what they could get out of you if you started to kind of achieve some of these goals as well. And then the final page is just kind of like a contact me for a tailored proposal and a photo and the links to all my social media again. So super short and sharp, because usually the people you're sending this to, they get a lot of these things. They don't have time to go through 20 pages of you won the Victorian Open in 2013 kind of thing. So yeah.
So if someone wanted to make their own one of this, right? Like who would you approach for these kind of things?
So for big ones, like if I'm trying to look for big companies, then I would kind of go through social media. I've been doing lately, finding the industry that I want, say that's, a protein company or food delivery, whatever it is. And I'll go through a few, usually there's multiple. I'll have a look at them, see which one I like the look of, see which one look like they have brand ambassadors. Because if they kind of, they just do their own thing, it doesn't look like they engage with brand ambassadors, then sometimes I won't bother sending it out. But usually I'd probably just send it to a few and through their email online, or find the marketing manager through LinkedIn as well, if that works. That kind of thing.
Okay, so what about if you're a junior, right, and you kind of just starting out with not much results and stuff? Like, what would you do?
So in that case, I like when I was younger in high school, I think I would write a letter with a few photos on it and pretty much detailing my journey. So, saying I started playing badminton when I was this age, I've won these tournaments, or, I was under 17 national champion. Would you be interested in, giving me $500 to help me get to junior world championships, which is in Germany next year, kind of thing. And I would usually try and go to companies that you have a relationship with. So whether that be, I don't know, like your physio or your local post office, some sort of store, or if people kind of through badminton, or your parents do, that kind of thing, who might be wanting to support you. I think it's good to just start like in your small kind of community network.
And I think also they don't have to be a junior, right? Like they could just be a starting player, and this is how you can start that sponsorship deal.
And another way is to also just reduce your expenses. So seeing if somebody might give you 50% physio rate, or free stringing, or, something like that. Or you can do an exchange where you coach someone for a little bit and then they do something for you, or help you save money, those kind of things.
Yeah. But I guess we can talk about that in our next series of the budgeting, right? Because right now we're talking about how to make the money.
Now, just a quick word from our sponsors. The Badminton podcast is brought to you by Volant. Volant was first born out of our frustration with the confusing, bright, and unsightly clothes and equipment that we saw in the badminton world. But now it's so much more than that. Our mission is to accelerate the growth of badminton by providing players with products that enhance their love for the sport. All in all, it's high quality gear that makes you look and feel great on and off the court. So make sure you check us out at volantbadminton.com and follow us on our socials at volantbadminton.
Another thing is like, what's the hardest part about being an athlete and finding funds? Because like for me in New Zealand, since a majority of us have to like find jobs, right? So we actually have to, the hardest part is actually finding a job that would suit our training needs. Because like I mentioned before, our training, it takes up a lot of time. Luckily, a lot of us are in the same boat, so our training times are actually outside the normal working hours. But it is hard to find a job that understands the demands of the sport. Like, for example, majority of the year we are training, but once we do want to start competing internationally, we have to be away for a certain amount of time, because when we do compete, we try and compete 3 tournaments in a row, or like something that's close to the countries, because it's just not efficient, or it's not like money. It's not. What's the word?
Feasible.
Yeah, because with New Zealand being so far, it doesn't make sense to go out of the country, spend like $3,000 just to come back after 1 week. So we do try and make the most of our time out. So the hardest part is finding a company that understands that we will be away multiple times of the year. So it's not really easy to get that. And I think that's the biggest obstacle that we have to face.
Yeah, and I think COVID has kind of been a bit kind with that as well, giving people a chance to save up, and then hopefully, once the world's a bit back to normal and everyone's so eager to play tournaments again, that people can just go out and play a bunch, and there'll be awesome tournaments and awesome participation. But we'll have to wait and see, maybe a bit longer.
Yeah. There was an Olympian, there was an athletics Olympian that was working in Woolworths, right? And everyone seemed to be like, oh, everybody should be funding her and stuff. And they don't realize how many athletes are actually in that situation. Like, not all the athletes have all the money to like fund their thing. So it's crazy. It was funny to see how they reacted. Like, if only they knew.
Yeah.
But otherwise, there are big national team players who used to be in the national team, but then they move out and become independent to pursue better sponsorship opportunities. Because if you're in the national team, especially in the big countries like Malaysia, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, you're bound to
Singapore.
Singapore's big too. But not as big as Indonesia. Indonesia, Japan, they're tied to a sponsorship. So to get bigger opportunities, they do have to, either make a deal with their national team or leave the national team. So would you be able to tell us more about like the differences between a national team player and an independent player?
Yeah, so I think the motivation usually to leave the national team is usually because of wanting to pursue more sponsorship opportunities. So usually the whole squad has a sponsor. So like whether that be Leaning, Yonex, Victor, kind of that thing. And they can just choose to use, the 2 most high profile players for all their promotions and use their image and photo shoots and that kind of thing. But I don't know how much the players actually get the benefit from doing that. I think it still kind of goes to the association, and the players would still just get their kind of normal salary from the association. So the associations still just have so much control. And if you are in bad standing with them, that you can't enter tournaments, because sometimes they block you and they won't endorse your entry into tournaments, which I think is totally crazy. But so, there's different reasons why people leave the national teams, if they have, bad relationships or not getting sent to tournaments, not getting picked as well. But primarily lately, players I think have been leaving to earn more money ultimately. And so like in Malaysia, Go Ying, Champang soon, and some of the men's doubles guys have kind of set up their own training club so that they can be independent and earn their own money and still kind of maintain their training in a good environment with all these other players as well. But obviously it's a lot of effort. They're supporting themselves. They have to plan everything logistically themselves, pay for their own coach, all that kind of stuff. And now they're like purely reliant on sponsors. But if they're getting enough, then it's great.
Yeah. What's the disadvantage of being an independent player?
I think it's probably the hardest thing is probably just the organization around having to arrange your training and your tournaments and your travel and that kind of thing. I think a lot of players, especially in Asia, they're not used to doing that, because it's usually somebody in admin who does all that for them, who organizes everything. They just turn up to training, train, listen to the coach, and then go back. So yeah, I think that's a huge struggle. And then being purely dependent on sponsors. I mean, if the purpose of them leaving is to earn more money, then that's great. But if, some people get kicked out of the national team, which happens quite a lot, especially in Malaysia, then you're just left without an income for a while. So you have to really find those sponsors to be able to support yourself and then even support your tournaments as well.
Yeah. So what about like COVID now, right? Since there's not a lot of tournaments, does that affect the independent players?
Yeah, I think it would, just because they're not earning prize money, they're not going to tournaments, and the sponsors, they have less opportunity to promote the sponsors because tournaments are a big chance for that. So yeah, I think it's been tough. And in general, like businesses aren't, I guess, as willing to sponsor right now because they have all their own money issues with COVID and their own, that kind of thing as well.
We mostly talked about social media, right? And part-time, full-time job in your industries, but like what are other ways that you can earn money? Like, I guess one, you can start a business, right? That could be accessed online. So that means your income will be remote, and you don't really have to settle in one place. So that's one. Could you think of other avenues that would be ideal for badminton players?
We've mentioned this before, but just like if you have a decent amount of money already, doing investment trading, that kind of thing, that's mobile. I know some of our players are trying to get into that a bit more to support their traveling lifestyle. And as you mentioned with the league, that's also a big thing, especially in Europe. Players get a lot of money from that then they use to fund their tournaments for the year. So that's a big deal over there. So if you are outside of Europe, then it's a good idea to see if you want to play a European league. And that it's usually such an awesome experience. You get to be kind of based at a club or train at another national team and just kind of have that European experience and get really good matches experience most of the time because the quality is pretty good. But then there's other nations that have like Japan and Malaysia, usually Indian league as well.
Well, what about the Asian leagues? Because we talk about the European leagues. What's the difference between the Asian leagues and the European leagues? Is it harder to get into the Asian leagues, or do they just have enough players that they don't really need a lot of like imports, or what is it?
I think a lot of them, like especially China, I think they have all the players that they need. So I don't think they have like any internationals. And then Malaysia has some foreigners. Like I played the Purple League once. Japan, I think, have a few foreigners as well. And then the Indian League is, I think, one of the highest earning ones. And that's where they try and get a lot of international players. I think there's a requirement of how many Indian players in it, but it's pretty much they're trying to get the biggest names. So that's why they're paying the athletes really well as well, so that they're motivated to go. And I would say with the Asian ones, or the ones that I know of anyway, I don't know exactly how China works, but they're usually in a shorter period of time. So it's maybe just like over 1 to 2 months kind of thing. Whereas the European one usually goes, the multiple European ones, they usually go from maybe like September to March or April. So they have like different matches, different phases of like preliminaries and then finals as well. So it's a longer period. So it's a different format.
Do you know which league gives you the most money?
I think Indian, the Indian Premier League.
Yeah, because they do that bidding thing, don't they?
Yeah. So I put my name in once as a bid, but they don't have women's doubles. So I was like in for mixed doubles before I could really play it very well. But you set your own minimum price, and then they just like show up the names, and all the clubs are like sitting in this room, and they streamed it. And then like, they put a bid if they want that player. And then if there's 2 or 3 people that want it, then they'll bid off and the player's value will go up.
That's pretty cool.
I think it's pretty entertaining.
Yeah. All right. Do you have any few final tips to finish?
I would say just try and, if you're starting out, try and think of ways that you can market yourself. I think it's getting like athletes are starting to see the value in it. And that even brands in every industry are basing kind of brand ambassadorships, not just on somebody's performance in whatever field it is, but also their social media kind of reach as well. Like it's just a way to access a huge audience. So I would say just try to slowly tick away at that if you can.
Yeah, I think it's also, I could almost say that your social media is pretty much the new CV of like our day and age, because whenever someone applies for a job, right, I'm almost certain they would check their social media just to see what they're like, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So people, start your personal brands out there.
Yeah. Don't lose your job by doing dumb stuff.
No. Yeah. And also, I mean, alternatively, of course, you can think of a long term to figure out your career or what industry you would like to get into after your badminton career, unless you're planning to obviously play till you're like 50 or something. Okay, I think with that, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today. And I learned a lot from this as well, because you gained your income or like your social presence in a different way. And it was so nice for you to share it with us and the listeners, to our third wheelers.
Yeah.
So it was good to say. Do you have a challenge that you want to give out for our listeners this week?
Yeah, I would say my challenge will be that to have a think about which kind of path you would like to venture into to help you earn money to like support your athletic career. Like if you're a junior, maybe start putting some money aside to have specifically for badminton later on, and just kind of thinking long term about how to manage your money. I think it can be easily overlooked, and yeah, just try to maximize how you can go about supporting your badminton.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so let us know how that goes in the comments of this episode, and stay tuned for an upcoming episode of How to Budget for Your Badminton Career. All right, and now outro. Thank you for listening to Badminton Lights Out by the Badminton Podcast.
We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we enjoyed recording it. Rumor has it, if you don't share this episode to someone, you will lose $5.
So share it. Don't forget to like, comment, and share this episode, which is available on all platforms. Follow us on Instagram. The handle is @thebadmintonlightsout or @thebadmintonpodcast, no spaces.
Stay tuned for the next episode.